I purchase them from the store. That's just, that's how I do it. But most onions you cannot plant or I buy sets, which are real little, and they look like garlic, actually, to be honest with you. And that's called a set. I already put mine in the ground, or I could show you. But they're called a little set, and I actually purchased them. Tractor Supply has them. There's seed places online. I got some at Sam's Club, and I actually got my potatoes there last year, and they did phenomenal. So I did buy potatoes from there again this year. But they're called sets, and they're real small, and they're tiny, and they look like little pieces of garlic, like the little garlic heart sets that you just crush, the one little clove. And you stick it in the ground. When you stick it in the ground, you make sure the little pointy top's on top. So onions, you can plant that way. And you can plant the ones from the store, but I'll be honest, they usually don't grow anymore. Because what happens is they actually put stuff on them so they don't grow. And I had it wrote down, but I can't find it. Oh, so they treat it with a non-growth enzyme. And they do the same with the potatoes. And this is why we need to purchase the seeds elsewhere, because of that non-grown enzyme. But you're going to put it in the ground. And you want to build a trench. You can take a hoe, or I had a shovel, and I just dug a little bit. And it should be about 2 to 3 inches deep. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip here. This is a gardening tip. So the smaller the seed, the less dirt you need to cover, and the less depth you go. So if it's a tiny seed, you only cover it up just a tiny bit so that the birds don't get it. And if it's a bigger, you go down. So the onion and garlic is about 2 to 3 inches, but we're not planting garlic right now. But those are about 2 to 3. Potatoes, you go down a little further because they're bigger. But you're going to go about 2 to 3 inches. And then you want the pointy facing up, and you're going to space them about 4 to 6 inches apart. That's a good thing. So, and then once the onions start coming up, they're going to look like a little golf ball on the top. When they're a golf ball, if you pull them out then, that's a set, and that's what you keep for next year to plant more onions. If not, you let them continue to grow, and this is when you're going to put some fertilizer on top of them. A lot of people use grass. I like to use newspaper or cardboard. If you use the cardboard or the newspaper, you do have to leave a little bit so that the sun gets to it, though. So make sure you leave a little area for the sun, and then stick it around. But that keeps your moisture in, because onions you only need to water about once a week if it doesn't rain. If it rains, it's good enough. You don't water it. But put something in there that keeps the moisture in, and this is less you have to do. I like the newspaper and the cardboard because you don't have to weed them, which is awesome. Now that onion's going to keep growing. We're going to go over this later, but when it gets big, about a baseball size, that's when you pull it up and then you lay it out in the sun to dry. Do not pull it until then. A good thumb to remember is we planted it at the red moon. You're probably going to be harvesting it at the red moon. That's the next red moon in the fall. That's about the time you're going to pull it up. And I'll make sure I update you on how to do it then, just in case you forgot and you can't find this video. So that's really important. What else is important is you can also put fertilizer on the bottom, like underneath, or composting when you put the set down, the little seedling. That'll help it grow. I have really good dirt. I had some composting in there, so I didn't add any. I just had composting throughout the dirt. Make sure you put it where with something though that's compatible, because there's friends and there's foes when it comes to planting. And that's more important than you want composting, especially depending on your dirt, but you can figure that out. Composting, our friend and foe, potatoes are friends with onions, just so you know. But a lot of things aren't. They do really good though to keep a lot of bugs away. So if you had bugs last year and you don't want to like plant anything else, plant onions, because they discourage them little guys. Some of the buggers like the squash bugs, they don't like garlic and onions. So if you had the little squash bugs, put those in there. You're good to go. Another thing, potatoes. It's a good time to plant potatoes. Look at this thing. You're like, okay, that's a bad potato. No, this is perfect for right now for gardening. See how this has a stem? You just dig a trench and stick this bugger down there. I put it sideways because they were so long, but you're supposed to put the root end down. This is, you want them to be about a golf ball size. This here is a little bigger, but we'll plant it like that. Same with this one. This is a good size. Well, this baby, this is a little bit too big. So what we're going to do, we'll cut this in half. When you cut this in half, you need to let it dry for a day or two, and then you're going to stick it in the ground. That just keeps the animals out. This one's about half and half. You can cut it or put it in. This one is called use your discretion because we're a little bigger than we want to be, but we're a little smaller than the cut. So that's up to you. If you need more potatoes, then go ahead. The thing is, when these are too big, you don't get as many potatoes out of them. They don't grow as big. That's all. So keep that in mind. But potatoes are awesome because they're about 30% of the vitamin C daily value and about 15% of the recommended potassium. And they have about 100 calories. They actually lived off of these pretty much during the Great Depression and that. They ate potatoes all the time and grew them, and that's one reason, if you want to get into conspiracy theorists, why they treat the potatoes so you can't regrow them now. Haha. But right now is a very good time to plant them. You do not use the ones from the store. Buy the things. There are no seeds. They are actually little potatoes, and sometimes they shrivel up even more. They look like the worst, like you know how your face, like older people, it's like really shriveled up, like this shriveled up. That's okay. Plant it. It's actually really good. It's like perfect. Make sure it's somewhat warm out. Right now, we're like a little touch and go. I planted mine. I like risking it, but you want to do it 3 to 4 weeks before the last frost date. Our frost date's April 21st, so we can plant these this week and next week, the potatoes. We also want to make sure the dirt's about 45 to 50 degrees. Depending on the potatoes, depends on when you went. I felt like mine were good enough. I put them down. So these are potatoes. Make sure you dry cut them first. You want a good dirt at about 5.6 pH to 7 pH. And potatoes will be planted in full sun for about 6 to 7 hours daily. They like the sun. Now, onions do not like as much sun, so if you plant them by the potatoes, that's why they're friends too, because the potatoes kind of shade them. They don't like it as hot. They like the sun. They don't like the heat. So the potatoes kind of like help keep them cool. For best results, keep these weeded, and the plants do tolerate some frost. Now, I didn't have to weed that much because I put cardboard down in between mine last year. And I weeded one time last year, honestly. Cardboard is amazing, and it decomposes, and it goes into the ground. Make sure it's a brown cardboard, like the Amazon boxes you get. You do not want the colored stuff that you buy, like Ritz crackers in or cereal boxes or anything like that, because that does not decompose like the brown stuff. You want a ground cardboard. Put it in between your rows, and your garden, you're not only getting like you don't have to weed as much, but it decompose. All mine decomposed. You couldn't even see it this spring. I love it. You can't see it. It's the best thing that I ever did was put the cardboard down. Sorry, I was actually going to do this different, so this is a little bit different. Okay, so that's your potato, and we went under onion. One thing I want to add with onion, make sure you save this little part. We had onion for dinner. So this part here, you usually throw away. Save this, not just for composting, but you can dehydrate this, and this is what you use for onion powder. You also can use this for composting, or you could put it in the freezer and use it for soap, or use it for soup when we make our homemade broth. So when you plant your onions and then you harvest them, do not throw this stuff away. We're going to keep it. This is what I love about onions, because you can use the whole onion. There's nothing that is bad on an onion. Every part of the onion can be used. One other tip, you are to start saving eggshells. If you put these in the fridge right now, you can save them. We are going to actually boil these. You want to boil them. If you want to do it now, you can, but you boil these for about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Get all the stuff off of it. You want that little white thing inside, that gooey, like the thin, clear stuff in it. Organic eggs from chickens are best, but you can use store for these. But make sure you start saving your eggshells, boil them, and then you can cook them in the oven, 200 degrees, for about, what are we doing? 8 to 10 minutes, I believe. And then what you're going to do, 8 to 10 minutes, you're going to cook these. They crunch up really, really small. I use my coffee grinder. You can use a blender, or you can use that little thing that you just chop it up, or you can chop it up with, actually, you can crunch it with your hand. You can also put these out in the sun. Why we're keeping these, they're very good for composting. We are going to use these with our tomato plants. So start saving them now. Now, I have some random stuff here. I brought a toilet paper thing. This I brought down because you can use these to plant your seeds. Right now is time to start planting a lot of seedlings. Peppers take a long time to sprout, to start to grow. This is a really good time. Make sure you plant your peppers. I have started a lot of stuff. I actually like starting mine early. If you have a greenhouse or somewhere to store this stuff, you can. So I have my little greenhouse thing here going. These are my peppers. These little guys sprouted very quickly, actually quicker than I thought they would. But they're getting to the point that I'm going to have to transfer them. This is a pretty good yield because, as you see, I have 13 out of 12 little slots because one, I had a double seed, I guess. I planted Baker seeds. I love them. ML garden seeds are also really good. Bentley seeds are really good. Make sure you have a good seed because, as you can see, almost all mine sprouted. If you don't have a good seed, you're not going to have as good yield, and it's just like a waste of your time and the waste of your seed package. You're better off spending the extra money. Now, with these growing, there's a little key to them. See how they're wiggling? They like to wiggle and jiggle a little bit. I actually go by and fan mine a couple times a day. What this does is it makes them get thicker instead of taller, and then you have a stronger plant. I do it with all my plants, my tomatoes and my peppers, and this is actually my squash. I've been doing the same. Now, my squash was started in this, and then we had to graduate to a cup. When they get so big, which the peppers are going to graduate to a cup next year, or next week. When these get so big, I cannot turn this upside down. So what we're going to do is, I'll use this as an example. Put 3 holes on the bottom. If you have one of them little burner things, they work awesome. I didn't, so I actually had to use my X-Acto knife and put a hole in it. This one you do not, but this cup here has 3 holes for drainage. Fill it with dirt, put about halfway, put the plant down and fill it up. The plant, you can actually put the dirt up to the lower leaves, which is great because then it gives you a little bit more time before they have to go in the ground, but it makes this plant stronger. So we're making the plant really strong right now with all this dirt and healthy. Do not go past where you have the leaves though. That's a no-no. So go under it with the dirt and then fill it up. Do not pack the dirt like they showed you at school. You want it loose. They like loose dirt. I did have to pack mine just a tiny, tiny bit, a couple of mine, because they were like kind of falling over, but don't pack it too much. They like loose dirt. And put them in here. We will put these in the ground later. I will be honest, I am trying to focus on less of variety and more of 1 or 2 items, which has not gone too well. But I'm going to focus on potatoes. What I want to do is I want to make sure we have enough potatoes for the whole year, not just for us, for the church. I did make mashed potatoes out of the garden potatoes last year for the church, and we had some potato soup. So I want to make sure I have a lot of potatoes. Another thing I want to focus on is green beans, that I have enough for the whole year. Possibly 2 years would be nice, because then I can put something else in the green bean spot. I am doing a little bit of squash because we do like squash and we do eat quite a bit of it, and fresh squash is phenomenal. And I have a few peppers going and a few tomato plants because Pastor Rick loves them and they are just treats for him. I'm not going overboard to like can or preserve them. I'm just doing enough to get us, just for us to eat some fresh. And I have some onions going, and I have a little bit of cabbage because I have a mass quantities of fennel. I fell in love with fennel. It's such a good herb, and not too many things are compatible with it. So I have a few cabbage because they're friends, just because I need to blend my garden and have friends. So when you plant stuff, make sure you look up to see who is friends with who before you plant something next to your garden. I have list upon list, but I always double check when I put the plants in the garden. Even after I do, I map my garden. I have my little map upstairs, and I have everything where I want it, like placed on my drawing that is very sloppy. But I still double check when I put these in the ground, when I put something next to it, to make sure they're friends. I double and triple check. If they are not friends, they do not grow as much. You don't get a yield. Sometimes they kill each other. But if you do have friends next to each other, that keeps your pest control down. Certain weeds do too. Last year, one of my biggest mistakes was I didn't have enough flowers or enough herbs in with my garden stuff, because those, 1, pollinate, and 2, they keep a lot of the pests down, and I had a few little pests I didn't like. Another way to keep pests down is right now, put lime on your garden and put ashes from, if you have a wood burner or a fire pit, put them in. They kill the bugs. It's phenomenal. It works great. My grandma, she's 102, and we were talking one day about why there's all these bugs in the garden. She's like, it's because we don't have wood burners or the coal burners like we used to. And she said those ashes would actually keep the pest, the little, all the bugs out of the garden. So we don't have that anymore, which is okay, but try to put some ashes or some lime down. Right now, do not clear your garden yet. We have to wait, because we don't want to wake up the pollinators too soon, because then we lose our pollinators. So what I did is I just planted my potatoes and my onions, and I left the rest of the garden. So do not go overboard with this. We're just doing a little bit of gardening right now, putting down what you need to. Don't disturb the rest of it. Let them sleep, because we want to wake them up at the right time so that they pollinate these. And what's going to be nice is we might have some flowers coming up with these. And then the little bees are going to be so excited when they wake up because some of our stuff's coming up. So if you do it correctly and you wait just a little bit to clean the garden, but put the things in there that need to be in there, you're going to time it perfectly and everything's going to grow and produce very well. I know this is like a science, but it does take some patience and it does take some figuring out. But I'm going to help you. And that's why I feel like a video is better than me just like writing this down or having a full class and not recording this, because you're going to have to refer back. There's a lot to growing. I've learned a lot. Thank God I have my 102-year-old grandmother that can still walk me through this stuff, who lived through through the recession. I got a bonus. She also helped me, and I do a lot of research. Always look stuff up and educate yourself when you're planning stuff. It's a great help. Even what I tell you, I'm only telling you probably a third of what I've learned. I'm trying to give you the basics to get you there. There is more. Like, for example, I'm putting my potatoes where my green beans were last year, because your potatoes, and I'm putting the green beans where the potatoes were. I just flop them, because what happens is potatoes take a bunch of stuff out of the ground that is really hard to get replenished, but the green beans actually put in the ground what the potato took out. So when you start learning these few little key things to gardening, your gardening's going to flourish. It's going to multiply. You're going to see God's hand on it. But it does take a little bit of work. It does take a little bit of research. It does take a little bit of time. The nice thing is, once I get my stuff planted, it doesn't take me too much time in the garden. After that, it's like me and God's time, and I go out there and hang out just because I feel like I'm so close to God because of all the nature, and it's so beautiful, and I can just see God's hand at work when I'm in the garden, and I absolutely love it. So make sure you research and learn stuff, and remember, it is God that multiplies, and He told us, be fruitful and multiply. If we do it His way, He's going to multiply it, and He set everything up wonderfully. Gardening is one of them. If you see, like, when things sprout, like my little pepper plant here, there's 3 leaves. That's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Gardenings represent so much in the Bible, and the Bible talks about gardening so much. So get into gardening. Even if you don't plant a garden, start learning about it, because biblically it's going to open your eyes to so much. And God gave us so much, and everything works. Like, we shouldn't have to buy fertilizer. We have fertilizer, like God provided it for us. Our potato skins. And part of homesteading, you learn, don't waste anything. Use everything. Everything has a purpose. And you start using things according to God's plan. So make sure you really dive into this and start learning stuff. And it'll blow your mind at how God just designed the garden. It's kind of like our body, how He designed our body. You're like, it's just amazing how it all works. The garden is the same way to me, and I hope you get as much joy out of gardening as I do. Right now, I'm going to sign off, but if you have any questions, any comments, if you want to add anything, please do it below, because we're here to educate you and help others, and that's what this church is for too. There's a lot of countries that they don't have access to books and internet and things like us. They get it from their church, and that's why we're here. And we're here to build people up and encourage things. And gardening, I'm sorry, God talks about it way too much in the Bible for us not to do it. That's just my opinion. So dive into some gardening and have fun with it and see how God grows the garden, because that's how our spiritual walk should be growing. And it's so much fun. And it's so much enjoyment, and I hope you get the same out of it as I do. And until then, I'm going to let you go. I love you all. Happy gardening. Find peace in the Lord. Go out there, get in your secret place, and just embrace what he's done for us and be thankful while you're there. I will see you next time. Signing off.